Ladies and gents, welcome back to The Random. It's your host, SmallwoodWorldWide. We're back again with another video. And today, we want to introduce you to our new segment called TakeOff Sports Talk. We're doing this in conjunction with the Black Advancement crew. So we're very gracious and welcome our audience into him as well. Shout out to Aj, Greg, TJ for joining us. Let's get this going. So, as you know, we don't do scripted content here. We're going to bring you some irreverent, fun, and always grounded in reality sports talk here. Our first topic today, we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Now, we've seen a lot of things happening here with the NFL, a lot of wild trades in the offseason, but nothing was more wild than Tom Brady retiring, going home, maybe having Giselle tell him to take out the garbage once or twice, maybe smelling one of her farts and then saying, you know what? I think I'd rather be back in the locker room. Fellas, what's your take on Brady's bait and switch? Let's jump to it.
No comment, but yes. No, I mean, like, you know, I don't know how many kids Tom has, but if he's got more than two, then he was like, you know what? I think I'd rather just work with my teammates. You know, so I will say this. I think like there's been a lot of rumors floating around about like the idea of him not getting along so much with Bruce Arians and things of that nature. I mean, me personally, I was just really, I was happy with the way that he had gone out, and I was hoping it was over for football's sake, because nobody wants to see this guy, the guy who will never die, stay in. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted him to go out, and he went out about as hard as you could. Pause. But I mean, like, you know, like he went out pretty tough, right? I mean, like he went out like Brady would, and everybody was like, yo, it's consensus, he's the GOAT. Him coming back, it feels greedy to me, but he's earned the right. You know what I mean? He's Tom Brady. He's better than Joe Montana ever was. He's better than almost everybody that I can think of off the top of my head, with the exception of Uncle Rico, who we won't talk about.
Speaking right. So, do you want to really see Brady at 45 folded up like a lawn chair, leg bent up like Joe Theismann, or would we really like to have seen him going out? You know, albeit he came up short, right, from getting back to the Super Bowl. Sure. But his performance in that game was top notch. It was indicative of his career here. You know, it was gutsy. What would you think about that?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like Brady, when he gets hit, he goes down early. You know, he doesn't take full on hits. He even when he gets hit flush, he like does some kind of weird stuff that, you know, only people who don't eat strawberries can get away with bending like. You know what I mean? Like he's that guy. That's what Tom Brady does. So it's like, and the way that they changed the whole way that you can play football when it comes to the quarterback position, in terms of them not being able to get hit, them being able to throw the receivers without them getting touched. I mean, he can play back there forever. And someone who's as honestly maniacal and insane as Tom Brady is to stay in shape like that, I mean, he's gonna be able to play until he's 53 if he doesn't get hit. I mean, there's not going to be a moment where he gets to like Joe Montana did against the Giants. He got folded up. Man, I still remember, boy, that was so great. Anyway, so
Joe,
Joe, cool.
Wasn't nothing cool about that. Yo, Greg, what you think?
Oh, good old Tom bluffing ass Brady. Let me tell you something right now. I love the way he Brett Favre'd his way back into the league. Yeah. I'll tell you right now. I knew that he wasn't done. You could tell he wasn't done. Now, I didn't think he was going to come back, but I knew he wasn't done. Look, you can't be 44 years old and be up for the MVP, like in the conversation, like realistic conversation, like he could have really, really won, and then just walk away like it's nothing. Basically, he played his cards right. He knew he was coming back, but what he didn't want was to be under Bruce Arians' thumb for some reason, which is why Bruce Arians got fire promoted when he came back. Like that is, first off, that's like the whitest thing I've ever seen. He failed
himself into a higher position. You're terrible at this, Johnson. Let's see what you're
going right to the front office.
Yeah, he got moved into the corner office.
He got the Brad Stevens
treatment. Get him a sweep.
But yeah, I'll be real honest with you. I'm happy he's back. The league is not the same without Tom Brady in it. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody needs someone to hate, and everyone needs someone to love. And this guy feels both. Either you love Tom Brady or you hate Tom Brady. There's nobody who just feels mutual about the dude. I personally think he's awesome. So I'm glad to see him back. And you know what? I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl or nothing, but it gives people a reason to watch the game because somebody wants to see him win and somebody wants to see him get hurt and cut it out on the stretcher, which probably isn't going to happen. Nope. So, you know, I'm glad he's back, and I'm glad that he bluffed his way back in and farmed his way back on the team and told everybody to sit down. Well done, Tom. You keep playing till you're 95.
Yo, Teach, what you think?
He might LeBron James his way into this. Him and his kids might play together.
Ain't no way Brady having his kids play football. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Beat him.
What's he gonna do?
Man. Yeah, I'm kind of torn, fellas. I'm torn, man. Like it takes me back to Michael Jordan. You know, I talked to him. I said, Mike, don't do it, man. Don't play for the Wizards. Don't do it. Decided he wanted to do it anyway. And he actually, I mean, he played pretty good, right? I mean, he averaged like 20 points or something like that, but it just wasn't the same. You know? And, you know, Brady was playing good football last year. Probably got good football left in him. But part of me wanted him to go out on top like that because there was that it's like some kind of Hollywood ending or something. If he had just got the ball back, all of us believe that he would have won, right? Yeah. If he could have just gotten the ball back, I mean, it's such a great way to go out. You know, just like Jordan's, you know, holding the pose, great way to go out, you know. But, you know, Brady's a champion, right? And champions, you got to beat them. They won't just walk away when they're on top. They have to feel like, okay, all right, I guess I'm done. And I don't want to see it. You know, I don't want to see that descent for the GOAT, for Mr. Tom Brady. But, you know, like Aj had mentioned, he's kind of earned the right, you know. If he wants to go out there and, you know,
let me tell you something, though.
Out there to snap the ball, and so be it. Well, go ahead, Greg.
Tom Brady has to go out like that, or else he's not going out, okay? He has to go out hobbled and unable to perform. You think if Kobe was alive and still healthy, he wouldn't be playing right now?
Yeah, he wouldn't be playing.
No, I'm saying if he was still healthy. If he was still healthy and his body didn't betray him, do you think he wouldn't be out there on the court?
That's a great point.
If he can play, then he will play. I
exactly. I think Tom Brady's in a position where he can still play at a very high level.
I think when Kobe got hurt, when his ankle got messed up, and he had time to actually live a life outside of basketball, he was like, "Wow, life outside of basketball is pretty cool." I think that he was plotting his retirement right after that.
But Tom Brady doesn't think the same thing. I think also there's a duality with Tom Brady, right? So it's funny to hear these takes because I think he's up against Father Time. I think Brady legitimately wants to see if he can play to 70, he would be out there slinging a rocket, 70 years old, taking one little push or shove every now and then. He's okay with that. I don't think he thought home life was as cool as he thought it would be because it didn't take him too long. I think he was filmed at the soccer game with like Ronaldo and he was like, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Yeah, like I told Giselle, I'm going to be home. And I told the kids I'll visit their football games and baseball games. But you know what? Something about Raymond James Stadium. I think I'm going to go back." So it's just kind of, it's one of those things where as long as he can play, I think he will play. And to Greg's point, people love to hate him. People love to love him. He's box office. He's must-see TV. People are going to tune in. And I think that's a great time to pivot here, right? So speaking of people that everybody loves to hate and some people love, LeBron James. Listen, he's always been a lightning rod for all kinds of commentary. Let's jump right to it. Is he a modern day Bruce Wayne on the low? Let's talk about what he's done outside of the game, right? We know how great he is on the court. I believe right now he's averaging around 30 points a game, leading the league in scoring. Obviously, his teammates aren't any good right now, so Lakers are fighting for a spot in a play-in game. But the establishment of the I Promise School, the stories from Carmelo Anthony about him saving his life and swimming out into the ocean and everybody thought it was a joke and Carmelo was really like, "No, I'm about to drown." And Bron jumped in the water like some superhero and saved him. I mean, are we overlooking this guy's skills outside of the court? What do we think about that?
Well,
some people
go
are.
ahead, Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I said some people might be, but I mean, let's be honest here. LeBron James is the most successful athlete ever. As far as dual lives go, nobody's ever been able to handle this much. He's got movies. He's got a whole film production company. He's got several shows on HBO. He's got his own school. He's got his own money. And when I say the boy got his own money, I mean the boy got his own money.
Putting his own money. His bride.
Like he is, as far as outside of the sport, I've never seen anyone. Like he's one of the greatest, number 2 on my list. He's the second greatest basketball player of all times. And being number 1 is actually debatable. I'll listen to someone say he's number 1, but off the court, he is the greatest athlete I've ever seen. Off the court. Not one mess up, not one foul up. Let me tell you how together LeBron's got it. Have y'all ever seen the clip on YouTube when he's getting followed out the restaurant by them thoughts?
Oh, yeah.
And he looks back behind him. They're like, "Hey, bro, are you trying to go to the strip club?" And he runs down the escalator the wrong way to avoid problems. You talking about a dude who got his head on right and got it together?
Exactly.
You ain't never gonna hear no craziness about LeBron James. He has mapped this thing out perfectly. Outside, I can't. Off the court, he's better off the court than he is on the court, and he's the second greatest basketball player ever. He's an amazing dude.
That says a lot about him.
He's the most amazing dude on the planet to me.
I'll say this. The only reason why I was shaking my head when Greg said he's the greatest athlete off the court ever is because Muhammad Ali existed.
Fair enough.
I understand that Muhammad Ali had vices. Yeah.
2 on everything. My bad. I forgot.
Yeah, you're right. No. I understand Muhammad Ali had vices, but I mean, it's Muhammad Ali. So I mean, but outside of him, it's hard to beat LeBron James. He's had some missteps here and there in terms of if you look at stuff from an international perspective. If you look at China. Well, I wasn't just going to talk about the China thing, but I mean, there's a couple of different things where you're like, well, he could have been stronger on this, but it's not really, he's not obligated to do any of these things. He chooses to do stuff. And I mean, to be somebody who was on Sports Illustrated at 16, he's about as normal of a person as he could possibly be. Like like people would say like, oh, he's kind of lame. This is this is a guy who could have literally gotten anything he wanted since the time he was like 16 or 17 from anybody who knew who he was. And by the time he was 18, everybody knew who he was, right? And just to piggyback off of a story, like there was a guy who I know who saw LeBron James at a club, and I remember he was like a fight. He said Larry Johnson was out. Larry Johnson, the old running back from the Chiefs, was at the club too. Larry Johnson goes in the middle of the pile. He's a knucklehead or whatever. Allegedly. And he got into a melee in the middle of the thing. As soon as the fight breaks out, LeBron James, he said he looked like this. And he got up and walked out. And he was like 19 at the time. So, I mean, like, he's got an uncommon grownness about him. He's always been a responsible person. And, I don't know how much more of he came back to his city. He saved his city, pretty much. He saved Cleveland. It's not even his city. It's kind of his adopted city, but he saved Akron. Yeah, he saved Akron. He saved Cleveland.
Exactly.
He does so much for the economies of places that he goes to. He gives back so much. I mean, he's made it to where athletes nowadays, when they think about their brand, they're not just talking about, I'm going to make this much money. They're like, I wonder what kind of philanthropy I can do to sustain, to have my name go on beyond me just playing this game. Like when you come out with and create a public school, not a private school, a public school, that is insane. That's insane. That's right. And people can criticize here and there, but it's like, you got to understand something. He doesn't have to do any of that. He had every right to get his money and be in Aruba. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be. But I mean, but I'm just saying, like, he had every right to not come back to his community. He had every right to not, open the school. He has every right to not speak out on certain political issues, but he does it anyway. And I applaud him for that. Any darts that you throw at LeBron James in terms of that stuff goes, it's more so a case of you being greedy as opposed to him not fulfilling something. Because to be someone as highly touted as he was, both mostly on the court, but also be what he is off the court, for anybody to say that he's underachieved, they're obviously not paying attention. So,
shout out to LeBron James all day. I remember in South Beach, people focused on all the off the court stuff, but they seemed to miss the bike rides with the community, the juice bar he built with his wife. how he was implementing fitness and health initiatives for communities, especially those that were underserved. I was just like, listen, this guy's doing this and not announcing it to the world, you know? And all I could think about is where he caught a lot of flack for, you know, the announcement of it all, but they didn't see the work that went in after that. Also, the work that he was doing in the community in Cleveland when he's from Akron, and he pretty much, like you said, adopted the city. I'm like, what more do you want from him? Like, you know, we live in a time where people are entitled, right? You give them more, they want more. You give them more, they want to give you criticism. And it's like, listen, he doesn't have to do any of this, but at the end of the day, he did. Let's give him his flowers while he's here to smell them. TJ, what you think about it?
No, I agree, man. I'll actually give him one tick above Bruce Wayne. And I'm only saying that because Bruce Wayne had the building blocks of how to be philanthropic and how to give back to the city from his father, who, I mean, even though his father passed on,
right,
that legacy was there. As far as I know, LeBron doesn't really have much information on what his legacy is, at least from his father's side. You know, he's doing all that himself because that's just who he is. You know, they call him King James, and you know, I gotta say, it's fitting. Right? I mean, kings are usually above things that are petty. You know, and LeBron doesn't really get caught up in that. We were talking about how many people are just sniping at him from all over the place, over little things, trying to make big things out of, was it mountains out of molehills? And he has remained the consummate professional on the court, off the court. I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's been in the limelight for what, 20 something years, maybe more.
Right.
He's the Michael Jackson of basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, he started way back in Gary.
Way back
in Gary.
Yeah.
Mike got a month. What you got? Mike got a month. What you got?
But it's amazing, you know, especially given his age.
Right.
You know, none of us here on this show is 18, but we can remember when we were. I mean, to have millions of dollars, to have the whole world, you know, holding you under a microscope, and to be able to come out of it smelling the way that he smells now is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, the guy is well deserving of respect. Greg, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Speaking of which, this is the foresight that this guy had in high school.
Yeah,
he's in school. They pulled him out of his class. Adidas was there to meet him to sign a deal. I don't know how many millions, but it was a lot of millions. At 17 years old, he had the foresight and the mindset to be like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I'm worth more than this, and you guys can take that money and just go on up out of here. Who does that at 7? Who turns down millions of dollars at 17 and says, I know I'm worth more than that?
You're gonna regret it.
James, that's it.
You know what I'm saying? Regret it.
But, you know, lastly, I'll say,
do you know the amount of confidence you got to have in yourself and belief you got to have in yourself to look at that and be like, nah, I'm better than that at 17? That's ridiculous.
And the last thing I'll say is he actually taught his friends to fish.
Right.
Yes.
You don't see that a lot. I mean, that is impeccable. He's like,
I didn't get the chance to talk about all that.
Yeah, he's like, hey man, you know, I'm cool with us hanging, but how about I show you, invest in you so you can do for you.
Right.
That's as you were saying, Greg, wisdom well beyond his years.
What I loved about that part, T, is that he took those guys and built his entire team with them, you know, all the way to Rich Paul, who we'll discuss at a later date, all the way to Mav Carter, who's doing outstanding things to this day. And the rest of the folks that Romeo and the rest that you don't get to hear about as much as the other ones that are kind of in the forefront. So normally people get to that level and they just, all right, bye. You know,
it's either all right, bye, or it's, hey, do I got to keep paying all your bills? It's one of the others.
He made it to where his crew has people that are looking to them to ask them for money as opposed to no one asked him for money because all of them have money already.
Yeah.
They all got their own. It's just, I mean, he's the blueprint of how to do stuff. He's KRS-One.
Hey, there it is. So some of the folks shifting criticism to LeBron, right? They never made a playoff game. They never made the NBA finals. They never been a champion. can you be a top 5 player in any sport, in particular the NBA, and never won a championship? What's your thought on that?
So listen, and I know the numbers are skewed, and I understand that memory is fading, and this might just be the black male coming out of me, but I mean, Warren Moon never won a Super Bowl, but he's like a top 5 quarterback to me. You could consider Dan Marino the same thing. Now, when you're talking about NBA is totally different ball game altogether. NBA, I'm not saying it's because I don't judge people by the number of rings they have. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to do, in my opinion. You do that, you disqualify a lot of people, and then you include some people like Stacey King. Shout out to Stacey King. But I mean, like, no one's gonna sit there and be like, yo, Stacey King's better than Charles Barkley because Stacey King's got 3 rings. You know what I'm saying? Like the way some people talk, that's how you would think that they would say it. However, it is a distinguisher if you're talking about getting down to the greats, right? There's something to be said about Isaiah Thomas being better than John Stockton, although John Stockton has the assist and steals record for the NBA, because Isaiah Thomas led a team who, if you really look back at it, didn't have many Hall of Famers on it, and they beat Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan. If they weren't in their prime, they were close to it. You know what I mean? There's something to be said about somebody who can pull that off, and that's something that where you'd have to vote Isaiah Thomas over a John Stockton based on that alone. You know what I mean? So I would say you can do it. If we're talking specifically basketball, you can't do it.
Yeah, I think I believe it. No,
go finish your point.
No, I was gonna say I agree the same thing. If you're talking anything outside of basketball, there's too many other factors. So absolutely, you could be top 5 in your sport. If you're talking about basketball, not likely. And I've always struggled with top 5 lists in sports in general because I feel like there's too many determining factors that eliminate all-time great players, but because their team wasn't great or they caught a couple of bad breaks at certain points in their career, they never got a chance to win a chip or even be in a position to. So definitely, I agree with all of that there. Certain players, though, I mean, if you talk about like the top tier of players, you have to have won a chip in basketball, though, because at some point, basketball is a sport where you can kind of carry your team to a degree, Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a separator, man. Like I just, football I have an interesting theory about, but I'll get into that later.
Sure.
Yeah, basketball is the only sport where they throw that rings thing up in there. And that's only because of what Michael Jordan did. If Michael Jordan would have never went 6-0, that still wouldn't be a discussion about greatest of all time and throwing rings in the mix. Because they were saying about Michael Jordan.
You think that's true? You think that's the way it is?
That was definitely true. They were saying Michael Jordan was the greatest because before they weren't talking about the rings and all that stuff. They were saying Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player that they had ever seen before he had any rings. They were saying this in 88.
88 was a monster year, but yeah.
Yeah, they were saying he's the greatest basketball player ever, ringless or not. He was the greatest. But then after Mike won all those rings and never lost, that's what changed it all. Every other sport, it's pretty much, if you're great or not. Like prime example, Barry Bonds. I don't think Barry Bonds has a ring, but you cannot dispute that Barry Bonds, if you have an objective eye, you can even take out the so-called steroid years. And I say so-called because they never proved it. We all kind of know.
They're going to regret it. They're going to regret it.
Steroids, though, right?
What'd you say, Twan?
How many people took steroids and hit 73 home runs, though? A lot of them took steroids, but they did not have the talent to do.
What I call it was a fair playing field at that point because everybody was doing it. You know what I'm saying? But Barry Bonds, no rings. Objectively, he is the greatest baseball player you've ever seen on both sides of the field.
Both sides.
I don't know how many Golden Glove he's got and how many hitting titles and hits. He's the best baseball player that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And most people have ever seen in their lifetime. I mean, like I said, you made a good point with Warren Moon, but I would say the better point would be Dan Marino. Dan Marino is probably a top 5 quarterback in most people's list, and he's never gotten to a ring. I think he only got the 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he's ridiculously good.
Yeah.
John Elway, if he had never made it there, he wouldn't have.
He also would be.
He would still be in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I mean, the only sport that really carries anything in is basketball, and I don't know why or how. I'm going to go with the whole Michael Jordan thing.
That's a cool theory.
It's interesting. And that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
Because he went 6-0 and undefeated. So every other sport, you can be an all-time great. Like, is someone going to say that J.J. Watt is not a top 5 defender of all time because he didn't get a ring?
Oh, well, not because of the ring, but just.
I don't know if I call him a top 5 defender of all time, though.
Very good. I'm not arguing.
He's great.
He's top 5 all time right now, I think.
You mean at his position? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm talking about at his position.
Okay.
Okay. I get that.
No, defender of all. Okay, I worded that wrong. My bad. I'm talking about in his position.
Yeah, I mean, get your facts right. I mean,
in his position, yes. If you're talking about defense total, yeah, you're right. He's not top 5 all time. Not even. He top 10 maybe, top 15. Definitely
easily.
5. Huh?
I said easily top 15, probably
easily
top
15. Top 10. The only reason I say top 10 is there's some old players that people might bring up that I forgot about.
Raiders got a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Somebody's really underplaying the Night Train Lane thing, but I'm just gonna let it keep.
But yeah, basketball is the only sport that carries that kind of BS with it.
But see, that's my thing, right? So I do believe that, for instance, I think Charles Barkley in his position, for me, is a top 5 player of all time. He gets a lot of slander, but I think people forget how great Barkley was as a ball player. And I'm talking about 76ers Barkley, not like Houston Rockets Barkley. Like, I used to think Barkley was 6'8". I didn't even know he was like 6'4", 6'3" on a good day. And he was like doing everything that he was doing and dominating in the game. I mean, it's like...
He was getting those rebounds based off of willpower and his ass being on his shoulders.
He single-handedly almost Phoenix. I just heard what you said.
Took a second, didn't it? Yeah.
Charles Barkley, the only man with pit stains on his neck.
Hey, I'm gonna get my wallet. What you talking about? I'm gonna get my wallet.
And you guys are terrible.
Terrible. Yeah, the only man whose booty is higher on his back is Phil Jackson. Like him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm not gonna let you talk about that.
That's a whole segment by itself. Hi, Jeannie. Listen.
If you do that one in there.
We gotta pivot from that one. If you could make a movie, right, in the entire world of sports, from any sports figure or sports team, right? So after watching a show that's fictional like Ted Lasso, right, on Apple TV and seeing all the accolades that it gets and actually enjoying the story, what story do you think deserves to be told in the world of sports?
Man,
a real story, like based on a real story? Someone's real career?
Real career or a real team kind of going from shit to like sugar, like anything.
Go ahead, T.
On this one? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pacquiao's story.
Ooh.
His story seems like it's just
a rough story.
A lot of ups and downs, and and I mean, seriously, in the end, the guy ends up being a government official. I mean, Jesus. Most belts and or I guess, most titles in different weight divisions. I don't know how many fights that he had, but it had to be near 70 or something like that.
Yeah, close to it.
Yeah, it's close to it.
Yeah, he's a great champion. Fought everybody that would dare get in the ring with him. Fought hard. He always fought hard. I always knew that if I tuned into Manny Pacquiao's fights, he was going to give me everything he had. And he had some wild times outside of the ring. It sounded like, and then he kind of reeled himself in and decided to do better by himself and his family. And big time philanthropic guy, true champion. So I think I'd like to see that movie.
Absolutely. Aj, what you got? What you think?
Well, man, I mean, there's so many different ones. Just from a personal perspective, and seeing as how I have on the Charlotte Hornets jersey, I've seen a little bit of a documentary actually about him, but I don't think you can ever learn too much about someone like Muggsy Bogues. Muggsy Bogues is. I think that. So as a person who is considered who plays basketball but is not a basketball player, I understand that when you play basketball at a pickup game, no matter how good you are, if you're under a certain, it's a tall man's game, right? If you're under a certain height, you would have to be demonstratively better than everyone else to keep getting picked up. And you have a guy who is 5'4", who constantly not only gets picked up, but he gets picked up at Wake Forest. He gets picked up in the league. He has a career, arguably a Hall of Fame career. I mean, I understand how people feel about the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame. That's something to parse words with. Anyway, but I understand how people feel about that. But, I mean, Muggsy Bogues was in the league for 10 plus years. He was 5'4", 5'3". And, I mean, everybody respected him. Nobody looked down on him, even though, I think that would be a cool story. Another one that come to mind, outside of people like current people like the Joker and people like that, was Manute Bol, because Manute Bol's story outside of basketball is also another one that really is something. How much he gave back to the people in Sudan, and how much he always put on for the people in Sudan. And he died damn near broke, I think, because of all the money he put back into it. So he would be another person that's really, really interesting to look into. But definitely, like, people like that. I mean, there's other great stories out there. I just saw something on Kevin Garnett the other day, who's my guy.
Oh, the Showtime doc?
Yes, it was so good. Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. I don't want to.
That's why you here.
Yeah. I was like, yo, this guy.
Yeah, that Pat Riley joke. The funniest part about that scene, before you go on, is he's so fucking tall that the boom.
The mic was right there, right?
It was right here.
I mean, yo, he is pure energy. He's just pure, man. It could be. It doesn't. If you put that on, if someone was like half asleep, man, they'd be wide awake about the end. Like, yo, let's go do some sprints. You want to go do some sprints? I mean, Kevin Garnett is that guy. But I mean, I digress from that. Long story short, like there's a lot of good stories, great athletes. There's the Warwick Dunns of the world. Right. Even somebody like Deshaun Watson, who was actually a product of one of those houses that Warwick Dunn used to give out. To go from that and be what he was to where he is now. I mean, like, that's a story in itself. So
it goes to say paying it forward goes a long way, and you never know who's going to benefit from that. And I remember learning about that, and I was like, wow, that's great. And skip over those stories, though. Yeah. I think for me, one of the folks that I would love to see a movie on, I don't know if there's ever been even a deep documentary dive on him, is Lawrence Taylor. So when I was growing up, LT was just like that guy, but he was all over the place on the field in a good way. Obviously, I think at least 2-time Super Bowl champion. Then off the field, he was equally as reckless in so many scenarios. And I'm just like, I would love to see like a real strong biopic or a documentary that kind of digs into his background, how he was raised, what he went through in life, how he get to that point where he became like the LT, and somebody that just has so much passion for the game. Like, he'll lay you out on the field and they'll be like, let's go, baby. Like, when you hear like the behind the scenes talk, you're like, oh shit, he wasn't mad at him. He didn't mean to break your leg. It's all good. It'll grow back in 6 months, but it's like, listen, like.
Did you just call Joe Theismann a ghetto mother?
Exactly. But it's like, you see that.
You go with credit.
And then you'll equally feel that sad for him in his lowest moments when he gets busted at these motels and all these other little things that have happened. And you're like, where did the train go off the tracks at there, and who's kind of in his circle? Who does he trust? How does he feel about, you really want to get inside of a person's head and understand their line of thinking sometimes. So LT for me would definitely be the sports story. Another one, scumbag direction here, Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Commanders, formerly the Washington Redskins. I would definitely love to see, I don't need a biopic on this rich guy, right? Richie Rich. We want to see like a documentary on, and I don't want him in it. That's the best part about it. I want to hear from the people who work for him, the people
like
who
the
he's
McDonald's.
accosted. Right. Say that again.
He would be the McDonald's from in the movie Super Size Me. Sorry,
Let me give you an example of what would be going on in the documentary. They'd be like this: "Hey, is this my identity? Is this how my identity?" Yeah, so Snyder was out there doing all. That's exactly what the whole thing would be. Just like
exactly.
They'd be like, "Yo, you sure you can't see me?" No, he can't. No,
not at all. He didn't recognize your whole face minus the eyes.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. You know what I mean?
You know when it does that too, and they like look to the side to drink water, and they reveal the whole face.
Yep, you're like, yeah, and then like what?
Snyder's like
hilarious.
Happened
Most stuff. What else y'all got? What y'all think?
Greg, you're up.
Yeah, Greg, you're up.
Yeah. I would take. There's two people whose stories I really want to see, and both of them are, and excuse my language, two of the real niggas to ever be in sports.
Oh my gosh.
Allen Iverson.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see a movie about Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
He is so unapologetically who he is. He's got, and look, A.K.A. for his gangster and hood, we all know A.K.A. is thorough. He's a thorough dude. But I've never seen a dude out in the streets show so much love for everyone. A.K.A. loves absolutely everybody. And plus, I don't think I've ever seen a dude go harder playing basketball.
True.
Like Kobe worked harder as far as training and everything else. But on the court going hard, I don't think there's in the history of the game, I don't feel like anyone's ever gone harder on the court than A.K.A. Plus, he was so unapologetically him. They had to change dress codes and everything else. He's the first real, true, official hip-hop NBA dude. The first one. The realest one. A whole commercial with Jadakiss rapping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That commercial's still cold to this day, too.
That's crazy, man.
So cold.
That's crazy.
It's still who he is. Like, he's like Snoop. Like, he's never changed. A.K.A. has never changed. Not even a little bit. And the other dude, Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is one of the coldest dudes on the planet. And they're practically kind of the same dude. Marshawn shows nothing but love. He's a wild dude, but he shows nothing but love, man. Like to me, it's weird. If you if you don't like or respect those two, to me, you're a weirdo. Like, how could you not?
Sizzlers. Get my line on some sizzlers
tonight. There's a few other dudes that you could do a movie about, but they're going to do movies about him anyway. Like Mike Tyson, there's going to be a Mike Tyson movie.
Yeah.
That's going to happen one of these days. Well, excuse me, there's going to be a better Mike Tyson movie than the Mike Tyson movie that they already did. There's going to be one that's like real good.
Yo, let me throw in an alibi real quick. I got two alibis real quick. Another one, because you had just said it. Richard Sherman is another one that would be kind of cool.
A great story, too.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of a cool story. And last, Chocolate Rocky. The original Chocolate Rocky, Apollo Creed. I know he's not a real person, but they can make a statue.
Oh, yeah, the Rise of Creed? I would love to see the Rise of
Creed. If they can make a statue of Rocky, I think Apollo Creed story would be pretty awesome.
I'm here for it.
And another story that's I guess it's more sports entertainment that I would love to hear the story of. I would love to see the the movie based on Vince McMahon. I want to see how he did what he did. Because what he did is astounding.
It is astounding, right?
I don't know how he took all that stuff, but I would love to see something on Vince McMahon and how he put together all these wrestlers and made he made play fighting. He made scripted play fighting.
No,
one of the highest rated things ever. And I'm not saying it's play fight like these dudes ain't really getting hurt. Oh, it's some real stuff. But for the most part, they know who's gonna win. It's kind of a man soap opera. They got scripts and everything else. They had people believing that the Undertaker really burnt down his house and killed his whole family. You know what I'm saying? People believe that. And then all of a sudden, his brother somehow made it out, and he trained it. They sold that to our kids.
Sure did.
They sold that to us, and we believed it as children. We thought the Undertaker was a murderer.
They also thought Kane and Undertaker were real brothers.
Yeah, they had me think of a white dude named Scott Hall was a real Cuban. They were so good at what they did.
Hey yo. Hey yo, you know what I mean? That's my guy.
Cuban.
Yeah, every time he flicked the joint, he got hit. You know the same. Be like,
yeah. Yo, did you ever? Yo, R.I.P. Scott Hall. Did you ever go back and look at the old videos they used to shoot leading up to his promo before he entered the WWF at that time? Like when he'd be sitting on the street and all the gold, yo, Chico, and he just be talking kind of shit. The chicas are for play. Get out of here. What are you doing? And you're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, it's crazy now to look back at it and realize, like, as a kid, I was like, yo, this cat is raw. He just took the apple. He's about to knock the dude's whole bend over and stuff. And it's like, what are you going to do about it? Razor's edge coming your way.
Yeah, it was so gangster. And he told us that. And we believed that a strong, tall white man named Scott Hall was a Cuban. Vince McMahon made that possible.
A part of that got to talk about how Vince McMahon leveraged a lot of stereotypes too successfully.
All the stereotypes.
So every one of them.
All of them.
Like cartoon blood sport. It was the most.
Or just blood sport. I mean,
Vince McMahon. Vince, you're going to put on that damn turban, McMahon.
I'd check that film out. I'd check that out.
I definitely would.
Vince McMahon is an amazing. I don't like him and his politics at all, but I respect the hell out of Vince McMahon. I respect him. You got to. That guy.
Oh yeah.
He took a crappy little third world company and turned it into the US of A. He's amazing.
Went from wrestling to wrestling.
Wrestling. This is WrestleMania. Check out WrestleMania today and tomorrow. It's going to be great. Listen, this is a wonderful way for us to end the show today. Let's talk about how you became a fan of your favorite sports team. Aj, you got the Charlotte Hornets jersey on, the throwback Zoe, looking nice and crispy. We're going to start with you.
Wow, that's tough. So I mean, like when I look at stuff, I abandoned a lot of teams over the years just as I got older. But there is one team that I still stick with to this day, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Shout out to Big Cat up there, Cat, Ant-Man, and the Rat. You know, we out here doing our thing. I call Russell the Rat, by the way. Anyway, so but yeah, they're doing their thing, man. I was trying to see if they would get out of the play-in, but you know, I'm gonna watch regardless. I'm a fan regardless. It's been a hard couple of years with them, but the way that I became a fan of them, honestly, was through one of my personal favorite characters. He's not, I mean, I shouldn't say characters, but players of all time, which is Kevin Garnett. He was somebody who I got the Sports Illustrated on him. I don't remember if it was right after he got into the league or right before he got into the league, and I read his story, and I kind of was a big fan of his. And plus, as a basketball historian, so to speak, at that time, I really was into the idea of him creating his own path kind of thing and creating his own trail. And I really wished for him to be successful as a person coming out of high school straight into the league. And I remember he didn't start until like maybe like late December, mid-December or something like that. And I remember one of the stories that they had told about him, because he's incredibly hard worker. But one of the stories that they told about him when he was like, he thanked Flip Saunders for letting him play like as many minutes as he did when he actually got a chance to start. He's like, you know, I really appreciate you doing that. And such and such. And Flip was like, well, yeah, I mean, I like my job. So I'm going to play Kevin Garnett as many minutes as I possibly can. But I mean, like that kind of started it off. If I even the years prior to Kevin Garnett getting there, I was kind of a friend of his. When I was younger, I was a lot more naive. I used to watch the NCAA tournament real tough, and not of all time, but of my lifetime, the greatest college basketball player ever. And I'll fight anybody over this one. Is Christian Laettner. So I used to see Christian Laettner all the time. And of course, Christian Laettner was the first draft pick of the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of like kind of their bigger draft picks. So I followed everybody from those Duke teams. I followed everybody from all the good teams, but the Duke teams especially because they were winning at the time. So, which gives us to another story of Grant Hill, which I could have thrown in there, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, so Timberwolves today and until they move or they break up. So there you go. That's how I became a fan of my favorite team, and that's how I take it back to the streets, whence I come from, sucker.
That's right. That's right. So I'm gonna jump on in here. So I had a lot of teams over the different years, NFL, NBA, and I started realizing I like a lot of great players. And so whatever team my great player was on was the team I was supporting. But two teams I've always loved with all my heart and soul was the New York Knicks from the 1990s, especially when they were just beating up people and losing. But they were a good team. and the WNBA, the New York Liberty. And I'm a fan of both to this day. What made me a fan of the Liberty was during, I want to say it was either the inaugural season of the WNBA in 97 or the year after that.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Teresa Witherspoon half-court shot. Teresa Witherspoon
goes to link that court and heaves this shot. Right. And nobody believes it's going in. And, you know, Houston Comets think, okay, we got this. It's over. Series is about to be done. We're about to be champs. And she nails it. And I remember just watching the crowd go fucking nuts. And I was like, yo. And at home, I lost it like I was in the arena, you know? Yeah. And I was like, I'm a fan instantly of that right there. Like the emotion they showed. And they went on to lose the series, make no mistake about it. Still to this day, again, hadn't won a title, but they've come close. But I like the heart they exhibit. I like the environment where they used to play it anyway at MSG. Now they're at the Barclays Center, you know, money talks. But it's one of those things where the soul of a fan base is unmatched. And when you are part of that fan base and you get a chance to now connect with these folks and talk about it, the highs, the lows, listen, I've never been prouder to be part of a fan base than the New York Liberty for sure. The Knicks, I've always loved them, minus James Dolan, because of the
That's an important thing to say.
I got to throw that part out there. Leslie, how you don't recognize one of your top players ever in the building, Ewan, but that's another story for another day. Shameful shit. But
Shameful.
I'm just telling you,
Dolan is hot compost.
That's enough.
He is
trash.
Every day of the week. Twice on Sunday. But listen, if you've never been to MSG for even a regular game, let alone a playoff game, there's nothing like it. Even when Trae Young torched them last year, eliminated them from the playoffs this year, it's just one of those things where shout out to Ice Trae. He did it to us again. But if you're in the building for that, look,
he looks like awesome. Bruno Mars with a fake wig.
That's enough. That's enough. We're not gonna let that happen. We're not gonna.
That's wilting and melting down. But no, nonetheless, that's really how I got to be a fan of the teams. It was really organic. I never was tied to any particular fan base, but once I found it, boy, did I find it.
Nice.
I'll pass it on. Who got next?
You said me? Oh, well, all right. There's only two teams that I've ever actually fanned out over. And I'm not even a fan of neither one of the teams anymore.
Oh no.
The first one is the old name of the football team that was in Washington.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that team, I kind of inherited that team. You know, my dad loved the team. I love my dad. Kids. That's how it was. Didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? I was daddy's boy, and I was that was our team. We gonna ride for the Skins. Boy, was that heartbreaking. And
regret it. Go regret it.
Now, the team that I fell in love with organically was the Denver Broncos. I tell you right now. And they witnessed it. I was the biggest John Elway and Shannon Sharp fan you've ever seen in your life. I don't remember what game we were watching, but they were down. And it was the fourth quarter.
I know what game it was.
John Elway put together one of the most amazing comebacks I've ever seen in my life. and Shannon Sharp was killing him. And Shannon is my dude because he was talking all the shit. Talking all the shit. And after that, I was like, I'm riding with these two dudes from here on out till they are done.
I gotta interject real quick because this was the game where Denver was actually playing the Washington football team.
I was just gonna say,
Yep.
I think,
and Greg, and they were playing them in the old stadium, the Mile High Stadium, and Greg would do this chant where he would go, Mile High Stadium, Mile High Stadium, Mile High. Every time Elway would do something, I was so upset, man. That joint was hilarious.
Yo, yeah, it was. It was annoying. Mile High Stadium.
Yo,
Mile High Stadium.
Techno Bowl games was never the same after he started that chant. Yo, anytime.
Yo, like I said, and to this day, I'm the biggest Shannon Sharp fan of all the people that I like by far. I stopped watching Stephen A. Smith because Shannon Sharp was on FS1. It ain't got nothing to do with Skip. I'm following my guy Shannon. I've loved Shannon Sharp since the 90s. That has been my dude the whole time. So after that, I realized I don't follow teams, I follow people. So I'm not a fan of any team no more. I'm a fan of this guy. And if he just happens to change clothes and moves, then I'm still with him. You know what I'm saying? I'm not still with that.
That's relevant, but at least you had the Denver Broncos. So like my father has always been a fan of the formerly Redskins, now Washington Commanders as well. So that became my team by default, you know?
Yeah.
After a while, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm good. I'm going to support the league.
When the way that they did Darryl Green.
Because we had the first, this is the craziness of the Washington football team. They were the last team to get a black dude on the team and the first team to win with a black quarterback. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like,
and then told him he had to fight for his job the next offseason, which he said, you know what? I'm out. I'll retire.
But yeah, I was a big fan of Art Monk and Gary Clark and Darryl Green. Matter of fact, Darryl Green is the reason why I wanted to play football.
Darryl Green's the reason why I quit that team, man.
Yeah, he should have. But I'll tell you right now, nobody, this includes Deion Sanders, all these other cats that were amazing, Bo Jackson. No, I've never been a bigger fan of anyone than Shannon Sharp at tight end on the Broncos. Him and John Elway were my dudes. And there was no reason for it. There was absolutely no reason for it. I saw that game and I was like, yo, this is what I was enthralled with their performance. They literally changed my life, my football life. So those two dudes in the Denver Broncos of that era was my team.
Mile High Stadium.
Yeah.
Mile High Stadium.
It's so funny.
What you got?
He used to chant that. I remember that.
Yeah,
and you want to hear something funny? Isn't it a shame that people keep calling them? We keep calling them the Washington football team because it's such a better name than the Commanders. What a pile that is. Sorry, man.
Stinks. The Cobra Commanders. It's like, what are we doing? Why would you go? And then
the only name that needs to be commanded is the league needs to command that they get new ownership. Like you can't look. I'm on a real three strikes you're out kind of thing. You can't be losers, racist, and sexist. Like you can't have all three of those things.
Triple crown, baby.
That's fine if you're winning.
Triple crown,
they are the Clippers.
The Clippers. Like if you're winning, you can pull that off. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the owner of the Patriots got a tug. Big deal. We're winning. You can't you can't do those things and lose. I'm sorry. I won't allow it.
They might be losing.
You're going to do all three horrible.
No.
I said, just like Ben Roethlisberger. You can go out there and do some wildness, but as soon as you win, hey, we're all back on board. You guys are going to do this kind of stuff and lose? How dare you? How dare you be horrible in everything?
The only thing that would have been worse is if they were just parading around with Magic Johnson. I mean, like, that's really the...
Oh, Don't you talk about that sweet old man that was misunderstood.
Chuck Pagano doesn't want that. Chuck Pagano doesn't.
Well, I don't understand this. Like, how do you go talk racist with your black girlfriend? Like, that don't even make sense.
Yo, that was the worst.
That was the most slave ownery thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yo, TJ, what you got for us?
All right, I took us off the rails there for a second. My bad.
Okay, all good.
I guess in the beginning, I was mostly a fan of, from proximity, right? I didn't go the Washington route. I went the other way because my mother was a Cowboys fan, and I really liked the colors that they had, that blue, and I've always liked metal knives and stuff. So that blue, and that gray, I liked them, but I had to give it up, man. I mean, they were wilding out in the 90s. I said, what do I look like supporting this stuff, man? I can't. And then, so
that's how you know you were appalled. You gave up on them when they were good.
I couldn't support them. I couldn't.
Like, you just won a Super Bowl ring and got pulled over for 40 pounds of coke. What the?
Yeah, I was like, to quote your boy, I was like, where did you do that at? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't.
Skip.
40 pounds of coke. Could I interest you in that?
King James. So, I mean, you guys all said it. I feel the same way. I'm much more a fan of the individual players, and it's not like it was when I was a really little kid where whatever team these players were on, that was their team.
Yeah.
And, you kind of, your fandom was kind of wrapped up in this group of players. Now everybody moves around so much, and I don't have a problem with that. You do what you got to do to feed your family and provide. If you're gonna make more money than anyone else, hey, who am I to say not to do that? But the players move around so much. I'm not really invested in a uniform per se. I'm much more so. I like this player, I like that player, and wherever they go, I root for them to do well. But this is going to sound weird. Actually, when I tell the story, maybe it won't. So as a kid, I was taken to a Harlem Globetrotters game, right? And I remember, I had seen little clips of them on TV and stuff. And, we all know Curly has got the same hairstyle I have, right? So he was, when he came out on the court, I didn't even recognize him because he had this big afro. I was like, wait a minute, that's Curly. So everyone was, kind of pointing and like, wow, he grew an afro. So he's out there, he's shooting, he's warming up and everything. And then he just goes like, and he takes the thing off, right? And he's bald, really. I thought it was funny. The game was really entertaining. They're making crazy half-court Steph Curry shots and doing all kinds of goofy stuff. So they're not a real team, but I've always been a big fan of the Harlem Globetrotters. I like what they do.
Cool.
They're good for the community.
That's what's up.
Cool, man. That's a cool
entertaining. Listen, all these stories today have been amazing. We'd like to thank you for joining for our first edition of TakeOff Sports Talk. So listen, whether you like football, baseball, soccer balls, the taste of sweaty balls in your mouth, listen, it's salty. Join us every other week for our broadcast here. I'm Smallwood Worldwide. These are the Goodman brothers. We'll see you again soon. Peace.
Mile high.